Welcome, Scooper Troopers, to episode number 22 of the Dipshit Files here on the SKATCAST Network. I'm Mr. Scriptkeeper.
And I'm Mrs. Scriptkeeper.
And this week, we're not going as hard as we went the last 2 weeks on the true crime.
No, we're not.
We're not even doing any true crime.
No, we're doing something really fun.
Yeah. Oddities.
Yeah.
This is out-of-place artifacts and cursed books.
Yeah.
Out-of-place artifacts and cursed books.
Say that 3 times fast.
Yeah. So there is a ton of fun shit we're going to look at today.
Mm-hmm.
But let's just get right to it. I guess we might be the dipshits. There's some wackadoodles that might be the dipshits.
I think I'm going to totally whack out on this one.
Fuck
so,
yeah. All right. Well, let's open up this dipshit file.
Dipshit Files.
All right. Hi, wife.
Hello.
Let's do it again. It's our 22nd episode.
Yeah, I know. 22 weeks. That's insane.
We've done a lot of these.
Yeah.
It's been fun. So we've got 2 kind of subject matters.
Yes.
And then there's 3 of each, it looks like.
Yeah.
Well, actually, there's 4 curse books.
Mm-hmm.
But out-of-place artifacts. Mm-hmm. We're going to look at the Antikythera mechanism, the London hammer, and the Koso. Is that right? Koso artifact?
Yeah, the Koso artifact, yeah.
Okay. And then cursed books we're looking at, I can't even, you tell me. It's the book of Ababadabada.
Abermelon.
Okay. And then Tamino's Hell.
Mm-hmm.
And then the Orphan Story.
Yes.
And then one last one is called the Grand Grimoire, or...
The Red Dragon.
Cool.
Yeah.
So these are all cursed books.
Yep,
And
they
have
sure are. There's stories behind these, yeah. And I've covered the majority of the incidents around these stories. Not all of them, because there's a fuck ton, but
Right.
I've covered the major ones.
Well, this should be fun.
Yeah.
I haven't heard about any of this. I know about the Antikythera mechanism. Antikythera mechanism?
Yes.
I remember doing research on that for Time Suck.
You're the one that introduced me to that back in 2010, 2009. The
It's an interesting
Antikythera.
thing. Yeah, there's all sorts of theories about it, but we're going to delve into that. But the other 2 I don't know, and I'm excited for those as well.
Yay.
Let's start with the Antikythera mechanism.
The Dipshit Files presents out-of-place artifacts. Well, what the fuck's going on there?
Every once in a while, archaeologists and sometimes amateur archaeologists make remarkable and bizarre discoveries. Sometimes the finding is so surprising that they're unable to explain what it is they've found, how it came into existence, or ascertain its value. Today we'll be talking about such unexplained artifacts. Artifacts that many believe should have never existed, or for which we have no satisfying explanation. And we're going to start with the Antikythera mechanism. So the mysterious Antikythera mechanism, an unusual artifact found in an ancient Greek shipwreck, has intrigued archaeologists, classicists, historians, and the public for decades.
And dipshits like me think it's cool too.
Here are a collection of facts about the strange object, sometimes called the world's first computer.
Mm-hmm.
So the Antikythera mechanism is an ancient Greek hand-powered orrery, or a mechanical model of the solar system, described as the oldest example of an analog computer. It has been hypothesized that it could have been used to track the 4-year cycle of athletic games, which was similar to the Olympiad, the cycle of the ancient Olympic Games.
I sure have enjoyed competing against you, Maximus Testicles.
I agree, Longinus Cockinus. That's why I want you to have this.
Well, what is
It's
it?
fucking magic as far as I'm concerned, but I think it's called a computer.
Well, what do I do with it?
I'm not really sure, but it'll tell you when the sun's doing stuff.
Oh.
And when the next time we do this Olympics thing is.
Well, that's a very nice gift. Here's a goat.
So the Antikythera mechanism was found in a Roman-era shipwreck and named after a Greek island. Located in the Aegean Sea between mainland Greece and Crete, Antikythera is an island that literally means opposite of Kythera, another much larger island. The ship is assumed to be Roman, and when it sank just off the coast of the island in the middle of the 1st century BCE, it carried a huge number of artifacts dating back to as early as the 4th century BCE. The first exploration of the wreck near Antikythera killed or injured 3 divers.
That's where sharks live.
In my research, I found this, and I had no idea. In 1900, Greek sponge divers found the shipwreck, which was submerged nearly 150 feet, while wearing gear that was standard for the early 20th century. canvas suits, and copper helmets. When the original diver surfaced with reports of artifacts, horses, and corpses, the captain assumed that he had raptures of the deep, essentially a drunkenness as a result of the nitrogen in the breathing mix piped into the diving helmet.
Sounds like a party.
Although that diver was actually fine, later exploration in the summer of 1901 caused the death of one diver and paralyzed two more from decompression sickness, or what they call the bends.
I wouldn't do that just because that's where sharks live.
3 important Romans may have been involved in the Antikythera mechanism's transport. An astrophysicist at Athens University, Xenophon Moussos, theorized in 2006 that the boat on which the mechanism was found may have been headed to Rome as part of a triumphal parade for the Emperor Julius Caesar in the 1st century BCE.
Shit.
Army captain, what sort of thing be that?
I don't really know. I'm supposed to give it to the Caesar.
Hey, what be those?
Well, I said I don't know. I guess they're planets.
What be a planet?
Look, a guy just gave it to me. I don't really...
And what be those things?
Well, I mean, they're doohickeys.
And what do doohickeys do?
Well, I just said I have no idea.
Is it made of gold then?
Well, I don't know.
Can I play free cell on it?
Well, I'm not really sure what that is.
Would that thing do my taxes?
You know, I'm getting pretty sick of this.
Hey, can I hold the computer?
No.
I'm holding it first.
Now step back.
Give me the device.
I'll give it back. Oh, no. Look what you assholes did. Now what do I give the Caesar?
Oh, you could give him this gun.
A related theory is that the ship was carrying booty from the Roman general Sulla's sack of Athens in 87-86 BCE. In the same time period, the famous Roman orator Marcus Tullius Cicero mentioned a mechanical planetarium called a sphere of Archimedes that demonstrated how the sun, moon, and planets moved with respect to the Earth. More recent research, though, suggests that the ship may have been en route to Rome from Turkey. The ship's path has been difficult to trace because the Aegean is an important and busy shipping area at this time.
Indeed.
The Antikythera mechanism's significance wasn't recognized for 75 years. The unique bronze and wood object was found with a shipload of marble, coins, glassware, and pottery in the early 1900s. Since all the other artifacts were more apparently worthy of conversation, the mechanism was actually ignored until 1951.
They were like, what's this?
After an additional 2 decades of study, the first publication on the Antikythera mechanism was made in 1974
By former hippies.
by physicist and historian Derek de Sola Price. But Price's work was unfinished when he died in 1983 without having figured out how the device actually worked. The Antikythera mechanism is currently in 82 pieces, representing about a third of the original structure.
That's right, there's more.
In 2021, researchers from the University College London made scans of the fragments, analyzed the symbols and inscriptions on the pieces, and compared this body of knowledge to what ancient Greeks would have known about astronomy at the time to arrive at a model for how gears of the machine were assembled. But the results, published in the journal Scientific Reports, were still highly theoretical, since it's difficult to know if its ancient makers had the technology to construct it in this way.
Oh, those fucking aliens, bro.
Jacques Cousteau and Richard Feynman were both fascinated by the Antikythera mechanism.
2 lofty humans. Richard Feynman, super interesting man.
So the famous marine explorer Jacques Cousteau and his team dived the Antikythera shipwreck in 1976.
Jacques, what the fuck are we doing out here? Oh, we are looking for magic. There is no magic out here, only water. Oh, no, you trust Jacques. Jacques le merde dans la tête. Did you just say I have a shit on my head? Le mer, le bird.
And did they find anything?
Finding coins from the 1st century BCE and a few smaller bronze pieces of the mechanism.
Ada
A
Jacques.
few years later, noted physicist Richard Feynman visited the National Museum in Athens. Feynman reportedly was terribly unimpressed by the museum as a whole, but wrote that the Antikythera mechanism was so entirely different and strange that it is nearly impossible.
Says the nuclear physicist.
It is some kind of machine with gear trains, very much like the inside of a modern wind-up alarm clock.
We humans like to tinker.
So the Antikythera mechanism has been called the world's first computer.
Okay.
So long before the invention of the digital computer, there have been analog computers.
That do not get the internet for shit.
These type of computers range from mechanical aids like a slide rule rule to a device that can predict the tides.
Which used to be just an old guy sitting on a chair on the beach.
Papa Higgins. Yeah?
What will the tides be like tomorrow?
Well, my feet are wet, so I'm guessing pretty high.
Thank you, Papa Higgins.
Yeah, get off my dock.
The Antikythera mechanism, which was designed to calculate dates and predict astronomical phenomena, has therefore been called the earliest analog computer.
Okay.
The inventor of trigonometry may also have created the Antikythera mechanism. So this is an interesting little tidbit. Hipparchus is primarily known as an ancient astronomer. He was born in what is now Turkey around 190 BCE and worked and taught primarily on the island of Rhodes. His work survived almost entirely through later Greek and Roman authors. Hipparchus is one of the first thinkers to speculate that the Earth revolved around the sun, but he could never prove it.
So they shoved a spike up his ass or burned him alive or something.
Hipparchus created the first trigonometric table in his attempts to solve problems related to spheres, and is therefore known as the father of trigonometry.
Well, thank you, ancient nerd.
Because of these discoveries, and because Cicero mentioned a planetary device that was constructed by Posidonius, who took over Hipparchus' school on Rhodes after his death, the Antikythera mechanism is often attributed to Hipparchus. New research, though, has shown handwriting of two different people on the mechanism, suggesting it was likely created in a workshop or a family business. The Antikythera mechanism was so technologically advanced, nothing surpassed it for close to 1,500 years.
That's insane.
Consisting of at least 30 bronze gears in a wooden container that was only the size of a shoebox, the clockwork mechanism was highly advanced for its time. By turning a hand crank, the user could move forward or backward in time. The crank made the gears move and rotate a series of dials and rings on which there are inscriptions and annotations of Greek zodiac signs and Egyptian calendar days. It seems the information to build such a mechanism was lost through time, perhaps because it was such a specialty device or expensive to create.
I bet.
Similar astronomical clocks didn't appear in Europe until the 14th century. Since inventions like this do not usually come from nothing, though, many researchers think that we may find yet older precursors in an archaeological context someday.
You'd have to.
The Antikythera mechanism is designed to monitor celestial events, seasons, and festivals. The mechanism tracked the lunar calendar, predicted eclipses, and charted the positions and phase of the moon. It also tracked the seasons and ancient festivals like the Olympics. The calendar is based on the time from one full moon to the next.
Made for werewolves by werewolves.
And a special dial allowed the user to also envision the seasons, which would have been useful for agriculture.
Right.
Since the ancient Babylonians figured out the cycle of eclipses, the inventor of the Antikythera mechanism included two dials that rotate to show both lunar and solar eclipses.
That's sweet.
But the most sophisticated thing the mechanism did was lunar calculations.
You know what, Crappolitis?
What is it? Thanks to this machine, I think I've come up with a revelation. Yeah, what? I don't think the moon's made of cheese. Well, fuck.
It could figure out the moon's period at a given time and model its elliptical orbit.
That's fucking thousands of years ago.
The Antikythera mechanism has a built-in instruction manual.
Cool.
This was fascinating. Writing on a bronze panel at the back of the mechanism suggests the inventor left either instructions for how to work it or an explanation of what the user was seeing. The inscription, which is in Greek, mentions the cycles, dials, and some of the functions of the mechanism. While the text doesn't specifically tell someone how to use it, it assumes some amount of prior knowledge of astronomy. It provides written out labels for the person looking at the mechanism. No one is sure who used the Antikythera mechanism.
Stargate SG-1.
While many of its functions have been figured out, how and where it was used are still unknown. Scholars think that it could have been employed in a temple or a school, but could just as easily have been a fancy curio for a rich family.
This was the dick rocket of 2,000 years ago.
Without any other comparable artifacts or explanatory inscriptions, we don't yet know who would have used this object or to what end.
Jeff Bezosicles.
Archaeologists are getting closer to knowing where the Antikythera mechanism was made, though.
Hades.
The use of this version of Greek in the numerous inscriptions places the creation of the mechanism in the Greek world, which was geographically large at the time. The festival dial mentions the Olympics in central Greece, the Na in northeast Greece, and the Haleia on the island of Rhodes. A 2016 analysis of the inscriptions by classicist Alexander Jones and his colleagues suggests the mechanism would keep track of at least 42 different calendar events.
Shit.
With those dates in mind, Jones and his colleagues calculate that the creator of the mechanism was likely based at 35 degrees north latitude. Coupled with Cicero's mention of a similar device at Posidonius' school, this means that the island of Rhodes is again the leading contender for the origin of the mechanism. The Antikythera mechanism also told fortunes. This was really interesting. Jones and colleagues' new interpretation of the mechanism is based on the extant 3,400 Greek characters on the device, although thousands of more characters are likely missing due to the incomplete nature of the artifact. Most notably, in their thorough linguistic analysis, these scholars discovered that the mechanism refers to eclipses' color, size, and associated winds. The Greeks believed that characteristics of an eclipse were related to good and bad omens. Because of this belief, by building in predictive eclipse technology, the creator of the Antikythera mechanism was letting the user divine the future. Planetary motion in the Antikythera mechanism was accurate to within 1 degree in 500 years.
Well, it sounds like they were onto something.
The mechanism includes hands or pointers for Mercury, Venus, Mars, Jupiter, and Saturn, all of which are easily visible in the sky, as well as a rotating ball that showed the phases of the moon. The parts that work these planetary pointers are gone, but text on the front plate of the mechanism confirms, according to Jones and his team, that the planetary motion was modeled mathematically using numerous complex gears, and that it was highly accurate.
Fucking aliens.
So get this, there may be 2 Antikythera shipwrecks.
What? Okay.
Since Cousteau explored in the mid-70s, little work has been done at the underwater archaeological site because of the remote location and the depth of the water.
And the fishes.
In 2012, marine archaeologists from the Woods Hole Oceanographic Institute and Hellenic Ephorate of Underwater Antiquities again dove the wreck with the latest high-tech scuba gear. They found a massive spread of amphorae and other artifacts. Now, for those of you that don't know what an amphorae is,
I'm one of those.
It looks like they're clay jars.
Okay.
They're meant to be set. They're pointed on the bottom. They're almost like a upside-down teardrop.
Okay.
And they have handles. And usually amphorae were used to transport oils and that sort of thing. But they're pretty big. I think they anywhere from like a quart to 2 gallons are these amphorae. They're pretty big.
Okay. So they found a bunch of those.
Yes. This means that either the Roman ship was vastly larger than previously thought, or there is a separate wreck down there.
Probably.
Excavations have been ongoing for several years, with new artifacts brought up constantly.
Okay, I love this one because it's thousands of years before, or 1,500 years before the next one, and it just shows up out of nowhere.
Yep.
And so it has to exist.
Yep.
It gets conspiracy theory people just out of their minds on this. Like, it's aliens for sure.
Aliens! It was aliens!
Ancient aliens for sure.
Right.
But that just means that there's a bunch of shit under the ocean that probably leads to this device, or maybe even things that are better than it.
Well, I had never heard about the second ship theory either.
Yeah, neither have I.
But that didn't come up until after 2012. So it's a very, very interesting concept, and digging through the information on this was just, fascinating.
I do love that stuff. Just the idea of a society. We look back at the past as if, evolution has just been this constant, we've just gotten better and better. It's like, no, the geniuses of that time did amazing shit too. Every generation, every era had these geniuses where it's like, what?
Yeah.
Because none of us can come up with like electricity or, a watch.
Right.
The gears of a watch. But some guy was like, oh, I can do that for you, Kingy. Just give me 400 crowns and I'll fucking get to work.
Well, it's not just the creation of the gears and that it works, but all of the detail that goes into it. This
it's a work of art.
This machine. So they made a recreation of it. They duplicated it, and they did it, I think it was out of copper and brass. But they made this thing, duplicated it down to each final detail that they were aware of. And to look at this, it's beautiful. It's a beautiful box.
I've seen it. It is. And I've seen the artist renditions of what it could look like in its full.
Right.
That's amazing. Well, it's out of place. That's for sure. And that's what we're talking about.
Absolutely.
Now let's talk about the London Hammer.
Did you know that there's a London in Texas? What?
In June of 1936, or 1934 by some accounts, Max Hahn and his wife Emma were hiking along Red Creek near London, Texas. It was there that they discovered an artifact that seemed completely out of place. What they found was a unique piece of wood protruding from a rock concretion.
I'm going to concretion all over the place.
When the rock was broken by their son in 1947, it revealed an iron hammer with a wooden handle.
Shit, that's how myths are made.
The artifact would gain the world's attention when Carl Baugh, a creationist, purchased the artifact in 1983. The London Hammer, or the London Artifact as some call it, was promoted by Baugh as a monumental pre-flood discovery. Additional curiosity was generated when a 1985 report from the Creation Ex Nihilo dated the rock formation encompassing the hammer as 400 to 500 million years old.
Well, it's because it rocks.
The hammer is 6 inches long with a diameter of 1 inch. The metal has been identified as consisting of 96.6% iron, 2.6% chlorine, and 0.74% sulfur.
Fuck yeah.
Believers point out that this hammer has not rusted since its discovery over 60 years ago.
Magic.
This
is Thor's hammer.
This is certainly a unique blend of metallurgy, which some claim is a lost technology of ancient man.
Ancient alien man.
So the mystery begins.
Bring it.
What is a hammer doing embedded in such ancient rock? And what does this mean about the age of mankind, since man was not supposed to exist for a few 100 million years? As with any mystery and grand claim, all evidence needs to be presented before the truth can be finally revealed.
Aliens.
The discovery of the London Hammer still leaves us with a lot of questions.
Yeah, like, why come the aliens did that?
And there are many inconsistencies that prevent the scientific community from confirming this find as the oldest known artifact created by man. First of all, there are conflicting reports as to where the object was actually located in the surrounding rocks. And there is no photographic evidence of the object prior to it being disturbed. One report states that the hammer was embedded in a rock formation dating from the Cretaceous period, 65 to 135 million years ago. But other accounts state that Mr. Hahn found the hammer-bearing nodule near these surrounding rocks.
Don't you hammer-bearing nodule me. Sorry.
Skeptics argue that minerals could have cemented the hammer around the Cretaceous rock after it was dropped or left behind.
Yes.
This could easily lead novice geologists to believe that the hammer and the rock formation are from the same time period.
Right, or that it was aliens.
The only true method of determining the age of the hammer is through carbon-14 dating of the wooden handle. However, Baugh has yet to authorize this procedure.
He's like, no, that'll fuck up my business. My grift will die.
The handle appears to be partially fossilized, so this certainly adds to the argument that this is a very ancient tool. But fossilization has been known to occur prematurely through various natural methods, although it's not very common.
Well, this is probably one of them. It's probably some rare chemical thing where a bunch of construction guys were just shitting in one place and pissing there, and then they lost a hammer in there, and then the sun came, and then the rain washed the poopies away, but it left a sediment of poopy meringue, but then it hardened around the thing, and it melded with the rocks around it, and it became, the London poop hammer.
To skeptics, the hammer appears to be a tool that was abandoned or lost just some 200 years ago.
In a shit pit.
But to its supporters, this is a clear indication that man has been on this earth much longer than previously thought.
For hundreds of millions of years. Because of the hammer.
So this artifact is currently located at the Creation Evidence Museum.
Well, no comment on how scrupulously they scienced there. But, well, what do you think?
I don't know. I looked through the photos, and there really isn't a lot on this, but I chose this one partly because I'd never heard of it before.
Yeah, neither have I.
It really is.
I thought we were going to England, not Texas.
No, it really is very, very interesting because it definitely looks like maybe a miner's hammer, but it is in rock.
Poop rock.
I mean, it is embedded in rock. It's not, it doesn't look like crumbly rock. It's freaking solid. So I'm just curious, how did it get there?
I wonder. They dynamited some shit and then went bam right into it. I'm pretty sure it was Thor.
Well, the other part is that the handle appears to be fossilized. And it does. When you look at it.
So fossilized wood, so petrified wood.
Yes, petrified wood. It feels that, it looks that way. But this freaking jackass won't let anybody touch it because of the Bible. That's why.
Also because he knows. He's like, well, I charge $35 a head to come see it.
Maybe, yeah. But I sure would like carbon-14 dating. It would be very interesting to find out, because if it is real,
poop meringue,
then it's going to turn all of science on its head as far as our history.
But I bet somebody's looking at it, and a historian's like, oh, that's literally a hammer that they used to make. There's it doesn't have a brand name on it, but it might as well have a brand name on it.
Right.
That there is a Tom's hammer. And they sold those, and this year, 200 years ago, like you were saying.
Well, that does lead into our next artifact. So,
well, let's talk about the Koso artifact.
A hammer in the rock? Well, fuck me. Let's see what this next fucking thing is, eh?
So the Koso artifact is an actual item known as an out-of-place artifact.
That's an artifact that feels awkward around the other artifacts.
So out-of-place artifacts are essentially modern objects found in places where they just don't belong.
Right.
Hinting at the possibility of modern technology having been around long before modern man developed it.
Or time-traveled Jesus. That could be that, too. I left a hammer.
Jesus Christ, the time traveler.
Oh, Jesus, what are you doing?
Well, since we're back in caveman days, I thought I'd leave this hammer behind and just mess with people in the future.
Oh, why would you do that, Jesus?
It's fun to mess with people.
Yeah, it gets boring being God. You want to shake things up.
Do you want me to write that in the Gospel of Terry?
Yes, but write it in code so like two people can figure it out and everybody thinks they're crazy.
Write in code. Crazy fucks.
Jesus Christ, the time traveler. The beat, don't stop.
But back to the Koso artifact.
The item was found inside of a stone or potentially a lump of hardened clay.
Or old poop and pee meringue paste. Oh wait, that was a hammer. But poop could still be involved in this one.
Estimates put the material at around 500,000 years old. However, there is another potential side to the story. The Koso artifact was found by rock and geode hunters Mike Mikesell and Virginia Maxey and Wallace Lane. On February 13th, 1961, the trio went hunting for geodes to sell in their gift shop.
My geode must be acknowledged.
And they hunted in the area of Olancha, California, high in the rugged mountains, and then brought their finds back to the shop to be sorted and cut.
Greetings, fellow geodologists.
When one of the geodes was cut, it actually broke their saw blade, and it took several attempts to get that geode cut open. A cylinder of metal and ceramic was found inside.
That's why.
One of the discoverers of the Koso said that an archaeologist they called an archaeologist, and they dated the material to 500,000 years ago.
So you're saying that's 100% proof of aliens?
The date of the Koso artifact relies on the assumption that it is a geode.
Is this a geode?
I think so.
Well, what, are you just assuming?
I guess so.
Well, shouldn't we fucking know?
Probably.
What the fuck is a geode?
This thing, probably.
The only known thorough physical examination of the Koso artifact found that the material was too soft to be a geode.
I don't think this is a geode.
Well, what is it?
I think it might be petrified dookie meringue.
It also lacked the telltale crystals, quartz crystals found in these formations. Some softer materials can form around a modern item relatively quickly, whereas a geode cannot. That renders the age estimate not necessarily incorrect, but based on a faulty belief.
I'm sorry, this sounds like the beginning of an Alien versus Predator movie. Like, it's a fucking, I don't know what it is, and then the facehugger comes out. Comes out his stomach. And then becomes a weird Predator movie.
I ain't got time to bleed.
We've got to get to the chopper.
Sir, this is a Wendy's.
And then
The most telling part of the examination came with an x-ray of the item inside. It revealed that the metal was a cylinder with a screw-like item on one end and a flare on the other. For a period of time following the investigation, the Koso artifact disappeared. The three individuals who found it no longer talked about it, and one may have passed away since. Nonetheless, the first investigation and the photos, including the x-ray photos that resulted, have made it possible for experts to make some interesting discoveries about the item.
Okay.
The photos did not show a modern item inside of a geode.
My geode must be acknowledged.
Sorry.
However, the item inside the geode was tentatively identified. Pacific Northwest skeptic Pierre Stromberg took an interest in this artifact and decided to look into it. Unable to use the Koso artifact as a point of reference, he used the photos and x-rays taken of the item decades earlier. The leading theory suggested it was a spark plug, as it displayed many of the same characteristics. However, the screw-like end posed a problem. He contacted the Spark Plug Collectors of America,
That's got to be a popular group.
asking them to identify it. if at all possible. He received word back that the item had been positively identified as a 1920s champion spark plug used in
Spaceships, Stargates, time machines, e-meters.
Ford Model T or Model A engines.
Oh, that's so not as cool.
There is no doubt in the man's mind. Other spark plug collectors confirmed that the Koso artifact was indeed a spark plug, just designed differently than the spark plug we use today. The logical explanation then that it is indeed a spark plug.
Okay.
It seems unlikely that it was a hoax, given the hands-off approach that the discoverers have taken following the initial investigation. In April 2018, the family of one of the founders allowed Stromberg to conduct another examination by a geologist at the University of Washington. The initial conclusion was correct. The item is a spark plug from the 1920s, and it's encased in iron oxide.
Wow.
The real question is, how did this happen in such a short period of time?
Magic.
And how did it end up on top of a 4,000-foot mountaintop?
My God drove up there.
So the Koso artifact is now on display at the Pacific Science Center in Seattle, Washington.
Go Huskies, by the way. I don't know. I would say aliens for sure. On that. They put it on top of a mountain. They're like, we were trying to abduct this guy. We got his Ford. Was it a Ford? It was a Ford?
It was a Ford, yeah.
We were taking him over the mountain. Something happened in the gear system of our little tractor beam thing. Fell. Sorry about that.
Well,
a couple guys have to die for our brown cave mining technologies.
I threw this one in here because it took me on a discovery journey of emotions, because it was like, what the fuck? And then was like, oh, that sucks. Oh, wait a minute. What the fuck? So it was very interesting to me. First of all, in this discovery, the fact that I was like, what is that? And then I went, oh, it's a goddamn spark plug from the 1920s. But then it was presented in a way from an archaeologist and geologist standpoint that, yes, iron oxide can encase things. However,
aliens are the reason why it happens.
The way this worked and the way it looked and the I guess the formation of how this was compacted around this tool or this spark plug, it was mind-boggling because there was quite a bit of it. The way it formed was interesting, and it's like, basically they're like, yeah, that's what it is. We don't know how it developed so quickly.
Alien magic.
We are looking at it, and it's there.
It did do it.
Yeah.
Time travel.
So,
it's the only answer.
And then where they found it was on top of, if you look at the pictures where they found it, it is the top of this friggin' pointy mountain. How did it end up? There's no roads.
My explanation, I think, is the obvious one.
Yeah, aliens.
Yeah. They dropped, it was just the aliens aren't perfect. Sometimes their technology screws up. They were trying to take them over the little thing, slipped a little bit, dropped a spark plug.
Yeah, well.
Probably kill a guy. Gotta break a few eggs. All right, well, why don't we go into the cursed books now, shall we?
Yes.
Not just yet, jackass. SKATCAST presents the Dipshit Files. We'll be right back after these messages.
So before we get back to the show, let's talk about the occult herbs and tonics that we got as a gift from an awesome company that's part of our community here. They're time suckers. They're, I would say, they're scatcasters.
Yeah.
They're scooper troopers. So, and they gave us a bunch of spices.
Man, so we got
Yeah.
We got this gift in the mail, and I pulled my three. Actually, we've used quite a few of them, but my top three favorites
so far
that I pulled out that I want to share with you. But so this is Occult Herbs and Tonics. It's spice blends for the macabre. Now, they were established in 2020 by David and Carolyn Harper. Fueled, it says here, fueled by passion for delicious food and all things peculiar odd. We've created a company dedicated to quality sourced ingredients and the magic that takes place in the kitchen. I love it. So not only do they have spices, but they also have like apparel and merch. There's cups and their drawings. So all of their art look like...
It's awesome.
They look like old... what are they called? They're etches.
Yeah.
The wood... etches.
Yeah, they do.
Yeah, so it's very, very cool. But
I've worn the shirt twice on stage.
Yep.
I've played 2 shows with that shirt.
Oh yeah, we need to get pictures and post those up there.
I like it a lot. It's a great shirt.
So out of this collection, we've used a few of them. I think like 5 different flavors, and they're so good. All of them are.
On all sorts of stuff.
But my favorites, the first one, if I can actually get Witch Doctor.
Yeah.
So Witch Doctor, I love, okay, you're going to call me weird, but I love spinach sandwiches.
Yeah, you are weird.
I know. So I will take sometimes bread, sometimes I just use romaine lettuce leaves. But I'll put cheese and fill it with as much spinach as I possibly can, a little bit of mayo and mustard. But I sprinkle witch doctor on there, and it really brings out the flavor of everything.
yeah.
I also put it on my hard-boiled eggs.
That's what I put it on.
You fucking love it. It's so good.
I've also put it on popcorn.
Oh, you have?
Mm-hmm. There's also another one. What's the bone one? It's
bone dust.
Bone dust.
Yeah.
I put that on my hard-boiled eggs, and holy schmaggity-doo.
Is it good?
Yeah, but we got to put it on some steaks. We've got some steak rub. We've got
we do.
taco seasoning.
Oh, that's this weekend.
Yeah, we're going to try all of these. But so far we've tried them, and they really are fantastic.
They really are.
Like,
so
I can't
good.
wait to get more of that shit in my face hole.
Yeah, my other favorite is Baba Yaga. I love this on my salads. See, the thing was, I love it so much that I actually took the little plastic shaker off and just kind of...
So you could dump it?
So I dumped a bunch of it in my salad. It was so good. The best salad I've had. But you guys can actually take a look yourself and find out what they've got here. It's at occultherbsandtonics.com. You can find them there. You can also find them on Facebook.
They'll probably just come to your house if you want. What? Sorry.
Check it out, and it'll link you to their website. They've got a vast collection of stuff. I mean, if you look, you've got Chupacabra, Shadow Man. I love the names of all of these things.
Fits right into the world of Scared to Death and Time Suck. And
the Pyromancer set. You've got the Conjurer set, the Unholy Cow. So these folks not only have a good sense of humor, very talented, and have wonderful taste palettes, obviously. And I've actually spoken with David online a few times. Very kind human, genuine soul, and I appreciate all that he's done. So we want to give him a shout out. Check out their stuff if you can. If you're looking for great spices, number one choice is this one here. So it's Occult Herbs and Tonics. Go check them out.
Yeah. Tell them we sent you.
And now back to SKATCAST presents the Dipshit Files. This is part 2, the cursed books.
What kind of dick cheese puts a curse on a book? People already don't read as it is, fuck.
So this first cursed book, I cannot pronounce all that way. Let's see. Abramelin.
I got you.
Okay.
No doubt that books are one of the most trusted and needed friends of humanity.
Yes.
Mankind has been using books for sharing knowledge and secrets to others and succeeding generations since time immemorial. But what if you were told that some books are just bad?
Well, then burn it.
Maybe even haunted or cursed.
Ooh, in that case, I would stab it with a stake, then burn it, then bury the ashes.
Most of you would likely not believe it.
Well, I've already stabbed it, burned it, and buried the ashes, so I guess I'm a believer.
But some books do exist which are believed to not be of our dimension, but have a relation with some other mysterious dimensions. The world as we know it is, at times, a strange and mysterious place. There are places that we've not yet discovered and dangers that are yet to unfold.
That sounds like asswell shit to me. God damn it.
Included in the unknown aspects of our world is the study of literature and stories. Now, I'm going to cover a few quote-unquote cursed books from around the world that were banned, destroyed, or evidently just too risky to read. So let's dive in.
Fuck me up, wife.
Firstly, let's cover what a book curse entails.
At least some dragon semen.
A book curse is a widely employed method of discouraging the theft of manuscripts during the medieval period in Europe. The use of book curses dates back much further to pre-Christian times, when the wrath of the gods was invoked to protect books and scrolls, usually invoking threat of excommunication. With the more creative and dramatic detail, the better. Generally located in the first or last page of a volume, these curses were often considered the only defense in protection of highly coveted books and manuscripts.
So just about zero protection.
This was notably a time in which people believed in curses, which was critical to its effect, thus believing that if a person stole or ripped out a page, they were destined to die an agonizing death.
It's cheaper than hiring private security.
Right. Or copywriting.
Yeah.
Many people around the world are passionate about books, and I know I am.
I hate books.
Even as we mentioned love for books, I'm sure thoughts of your favorite book may have flashed in your mind.
Any book can be good with ranch dressing.
Books can be extremely valuable, and serious book collectors have spent millions of dollars
avoiding taxes so they could buy books. Sorry.
Collecting books. But in reality, let's be honest, they're just words printed on paper, and the papers are bound together.
Some of them have pictures of boobies in them.
So a book can't really be cursed, can it?
Well, if you believe your hardestest, I mean, certainly not.
According to some people, The following texts are linked to the misery and death, and some would consider the ultimate representation of evil. The first one we're going to cover is the Book of the Sacred Magic of Abramelin the Mage.
Let's fucking get it.
And this is the sacred book of the abracadabra, the guy. Eh?
Well, I would like to share that I have 2 of these books that we're covering. I love them. They're great, and I've never experienced any bullshit. So
there is a portal to hell in our basement, but that's normal suburb shit, you know?
This is one that I do have. The Book of the Sacred Magic of Abramelin the Mage was written in the 15th century by a man whose name was Abraham.
Where I got to go?
Abraham visited Egypt, and there he met a magician who knew dark magic and dark secrets. And he shared many of these dark and mysterious secrets with Abraham. He told him how to bring the dead back.
I got a kitty he can work on.
The location of under-earth treasures and how to contact devils.
Why, this book should be available at the YMCA. Where do I sign up?
Besides this, he also told him the secrets of becoming invisible.
Harry Potter shit.
And flying in the sky.
Superman shit.
Now, most parents give their kids toys or a new phone as a gift, but Abramelin, or Abraham,
just beat the shit out of that kid for his birthday. Sorry, trigger warning. I mean, kind of late, but
gave his son a book full of mythical curses.
That's not quite how to win friends and influence people, but you know.
And that works too. Since it was translated to English in 1900, this 15th century book has had a reputation for being cursed. There are several theories as to why, but many believe it has to do with the mage's belief that everybody has their own unique personal demon. And in the process of reading this book and following the spells and incantations, you bring that personal demon to life.
My Lord Satan.
What is it, Azazel?
I've lined up the demons like you asked.
Oh, this is hardly enough demons to give everybody a personal demon.
Well, maybe if you made it difficult to get a demon, like put it in a book that only a few people could get that.
Well, if people could figure out they could get their own demon, they'd probably all go get that book.
Not if we said it was cursed.
Yeah, fuck yeah, good job, Azazel.
Happy to help, man.
Well, that gets it all spooky right from the get-go.
Throughout the book, he gives instructions for rituals and supernatural feats to bring your demons under control.
Okay.
Any paranormal enthusiast knows it's risky to reach out and communicate with the spirit world, so it's not surprising that readers of this book have reported bad luck and hauntings by spirits from another realm.
I'd say so far so good for us, since we have the book in the house.
Well, you know, I've read the book start to finish twice.
And that's why the Earth seems like it's jumped timelines, because Monique released the demons.
The first
you seem
time,
fine. Everything seems fine.
Everything's fine. The thing is, my first time through the book, I had to get used to
all the demons.
No, the language. The language used.
The language of the demons
is very difficult to understand because it's not modern English at all.
It's demon English.
And it is translated too. And I know that some of the words don't translate properly, so it kind of confuses things.
That's how demons do, huh?
But I did, I don't know, it's a fascinating book.
On demons.
If you read it, it is a story about a father...
Papa Demon.
Telling him, talking to his son.
Demon.
So
baby demon. Little father-son demon time. Nothing like that.
But there is some really interesting things in there. But you know what? I've had the book for quite some time and nothing bad has happened.
Doesn't seem like it.
Yeah. But then, again, I haven't been gone casting spells to,
get the demons?
Get the demons either.
Right. Well,
here we
should
are.
work on that. And then we can actually do a full study. Yeah. We'll let you know how it goes, guys.
Asmodeus.
All right, let's talk about Tamino's Hell.
Can a poem fuck you up? Let's find out with Tamino's Hell.
Tamino's Hell is actually not a book. It's a poem.
Okay.
In 1917, 20-year-old graduate Yaso Sayo found himself sitting on a bench at Tokyo University. As tears welled in his eyes, he read a telegram from Japan's military office informing him that his father had been killed in action in what was then called the Great Conflict. Yaso had been studying literature, and he wondered whether he should just pack up his studies to be with his family. But it was then realized his talent for poetry could perhaps help him work out his feelings.
You can also try just jerking it.
So he began to write.
Also good.
And in doing so, Yaso discovered he wasn't so much sad as he was furious.
Recommend jerking it.
He was angry at the stupidity of war and how it ripped families apart.
Yeah, for sure.
In his self-examination, he reasoned that when a soldier like his father died, he not only faced going to hell, but his death put his family through hell as well. Perhaps, he thought, not only metaphorically, but physically. 2 years later, Yasowa's grief and anger culminated in a poem called Tamino's Gaku, translated to Tamino's Hell. It focuses on a child who loses his family in a tragedy. Although the tragedy is open to interpretation, some scholars believe that the Tamino of the title is a boy who murdered his parents.
Okay.
Though there are others who believed Tamino is a girl who experienced horrible abuses by her sister until she took revenge on her. Whatever the tragedy, Tamino soon finds himself or herself descending into Mugen Shigoku. According to the Buddhists of Ichi, it is the lowest level of hell, for the child is doomed to live out eternity in torment and agony. In the century since the poem's publication, there have been whispers and rumors of a curse associated with the poem when it is read out loud.
And I talked to you out of reading it out loud so we didn't hurt anybody. Go!
I know. I actually wrote it. I actually copied it out, and I was going to read it. But Zach's like, don't do that.
No, we can't do that.
This legend seems to have started when filmmaker Teruya Masuji released a feature film adaptation of the poem only to die suddenly at the age of 47.
See? Not doing that.
Another urban legend states that a female university student staged a public reading of Tamino's Hell only to be killed herself.
Haven't heard of a podcast yet, so let's not do that.
A couple of weeks later. In 2004, author Yamida Inahaiku incorporated the poem in his book, My Heart is Like a Stone Rolling Around. And in this
Then
book...
a stone fell on him and it rolled around and died. Sorry.
In the book, he put the following warning, quote, if you decide to read this poem out loud...
Don't.
After you will suffer from a terrible fate which cannot be escaped, end quote.
You've been warned.
Soon after the poem went viral, with internet users posting videos of themselves reading the poem aloud, with some reporting everything from nausea and headaches to accidents and actual unexpected deaths.
Sounds fake.
Whether these rumors are true or not is open for interpretation, but when it comes to Tamino's Hell, perhaps some things are better left unsaid.
Yeah, probably.
And that's why
We
I
didn't do
took
this.
the poem out.
But fuck. There you go. I don't know. I don't believe in those kind of things, but I don't want people to be like, fuck, I listened to it. Fuck. Because, we know a lot of you guys are very rational and, there are a lot of listeners and we don't know all of you and we don't want to hurt you.
Right.
But we'll leave it up to you, but we're not doing
If you want to check it out, go check out Tamino's poem. Read it quietly to yourself. It is a pretty dark poem.
Read it to somebody you hate. Or have them read it. Be like, hey, you got to read this out loud on your podcast. Sorry.
Now, the thing that I find in these circumstances is I don't believe that a poem is cursed. I just don't.
Right.
However,
I'm almost certain the coffee machine is cursed. Sorry, please continue.
I do believe in the power of the human mind. And I do believe that you can believe that you are cursed. And it is just as power to believe that you are cursed than to actually be cursed.
Hence why we pulled it from the show.
Right. So that's where I sit with this. It is a beautiful poem. It's dark and very painful, but they did a great job.
And probably worth reading, but just not allowed on your podcast.
It's beautiful. So we're going to move on to the next one, which is The Orphan Story.
Interesting.
Do you have any cursed books in your house?
In 1610, Martin de Leon Cardenas, a priest in the order of St. Augustine, disembarked from a ship in a Spanish port, weary but excited. He had just made the long journey from Peru, where he'd spent months exploring and trying to introduce Peruvians to the New World. As he settled back into his quarters, he found himself determined to tell the world about what he'd seen during his adventures. Fierce battles, native ceremonies, pirates, and pineapples.
Right. That's the highlight.
And then somebody went and put that shit on a pizza and made it all controversial.
Putting quill to paper, Father Martin combined his real-life adventures into a fictional story of a 14-year-old orphan who set sail on the ship to South America, discovering adventure and himself along the way.
Discovering yourself. Oh, fuck, I'm a me.
It's basically a 17th century version of Forrest Gump, as the boy finds himself in the middle of a few famous events and even crosses paths with Sir Francis Drake,
Lieutenant Drake, cholera.
a Spanish princess,
Get your hands off me, you creep. Sorry, Henry.
and even the Pope himself.
Hey, I'm the Pope.
I got to go pee.
Hey, he's got the pizza.
The result was a 350-page historical novel called Historia del Huérfano,
Awesome title.
or The Orphan Story. In 1622, proud of his work, the priest took his manuscript to a few publishers, only to have them turn him away at the door without even reading it.
Always gatekeepers.
It seems word was getting around that the Catholic Church in Spain wanted to put a stop to published stories about the New World.
Adventure, excitement, the Spaniard craves not these things.
It was believed details from such stories would give Spaniards the wrong impression of their efforts to colonize South America. Martin then tried to publish his novel secretly and anonymously under the name Andreas de Leon, but still found no buyers.
Yeah, we kind of look like a moral colonizing dickhole, so no bueno.
Despite all of his hard work and despite the thrilling tales he had to tell, the priest packed up the manuscript in a chest and locked it up.
I'm really focused on the screenplay and the musical.
And there it remained for 343 years until 1965.
Shit.
In that year, a researcher at the Hispanic Society of America was going over some acquisitions and discovered the yellowed, though still intact manuscript. Somehow, and at some point, like its protagonist in the book, it had undertaken a perilous journey across the Atlantic from Spain to Manhattan. The book's discovery floored Antonio Rodriguez Bonino, an esteemed scholar of Spanish literature and a professor at the University of California, Berkeley. At the time, it was thought that the earliest New World novel had been published only in the 1690s, but the orphan story pushed that date back half a century. Rodriguez Bonino immediately obtained the manuscript and set about editing a version for modern publication. After all, the book was a treasure trove of historical information, one he knew the world had to read to believe.
I want to read it now.
So the professor took a sabbatical from his university job to edit the book. 5 years later, in 1970, he took a research trip to Madrid, where he was killed in a fluke car accident at the age of 60. With no one willing to take over his endeavor, the wrinkled manuscript collected dust until 1984, when William C. Bryan, an associate professor of Spanish at Oakland University in Rochester, Michigan, rediscovered the book and set about finishing Rodriguez Bonino's work. Bryan was excited and had big plans for the text. 2 years later, in 1986, he told the school's alumni magazine that he thought Hollywood would want it, as the story would make an excellent movie. It has love, intrigue, and adventure, but sadly he would never live to see this happen.
Because of the curse.
5 years after he started working on the book, Ryan died at his home in McAllen, Texas, the victim of a sudden mysterious disease at the age of 52. With his death, the orphan story went unpublished for another 2 decades until 2017, when Peruvian scholar Linda Palacios undertook the daunting and perhaps dangerous job of editing De Leon's manuscript. When she started working on it, a lot of people told her about the curse. She laughed it off, but did find herself a bit apprehensive at the same time. She even admitted that she told a close friend to burn the manuscript if something tragic should befall her. So what caused the seemingly innocuous adventure tale to be cursed?
Chupacabras?
So the answer might be found with its titled character. The orphan story is a treacherous and dangerous journey for the protagonist, and sometimes he doesn't end up on the right side of the action, a victim of all kinds of nefarious deeds. Even though the book was written by a Catholic monk, maybe the curse comes from the Almighty himself, people say.
Shit.
As it is written in Exodus 22:24, this is a quote, "Don't mistreat widows or orphans. If you do, and they cry out to me, you can be sure I'll take them most seriously. I'll show my anger and come raging among you with a sword, and your wives will end up widows and your children orphans."
Fuck, sorry, Dad.
End quote.
Shit.
So a lot of people really believe that the curse came from the monk's belief written into the story that orphans, when abused, were incurring the wrath of God. So what do you think?
Nah. I don't think so. I think that's pretty selective thinking. Where it's like, well, he only does it for this guy. And it's like, well, you know, there's a lot of orphans that could probably use some help.
So there were 3 untimely deaths, really.
Right.
Involved in the writing of the manuscript.
It's just the way of the world.
And it's interesting how these legends come about.
Yeah.
I don't know. I find it fascinating.
Me too.
How the human mind works.
Right.
So,
well, if you get a big enough room and you flip a coin enough times, somebody in that room will flip a heads 50 times in a row. And you're like, what the fuck? But just if you have enough people and that just happens. And, sometimes it's like that with death, where it's like that, it just went around, because there's a script in Hollywood that's like that too, where...
Oh, there's a few. I actually thought about throwing in cursed scripts in movies in this, but I didn't.
We'll talk about that some other time.
Yeah.
Yeah. Why don't we get to the Grand Grimoire?
Grand Grimoire? That sounds spooky as fuck.
Okay, so the Grand Grimoire. I have a personal connection to this book, just because I do have the book.
Burn the Witch.
And I've read it.
And she reads.
From start to finish.
Well, tell us about this spoopy thing.
The Grand Grimoire.
Now 25% more grand. Sorry about that.
If you think the idea of a book of dark magic so powerful that it has to be kept under lock and key sounds like something dreamed up by the writers of a novel,
or a guy that's been on a meth bender,
think again. We're talking about the Grand Grimoire, otherwise known as the Red Dragon.
Which, of course, is the spookiest color for a dragon to be.
Some scholars claim the text was written in 1522 by a man called Alabak the Egyptian, while others believe he simply transcribed and edited the contents of the book from a book that dated even further back to the 1200s. Whatever its origins, this book is said to have held such power that it has consistently been kept out of the public eye.
Forbidden knowledge.
In fact, this book had never seen the light of day until 1750.
When it came to life and ate a guy.
When it was allegedly discovered inside the tomb of Solomon in Jerusalem.
And ate a Knights Templar guy.
Once it was unearthed,
the rise and fall of Nickelback was put into motion.
It was secreted away by the Catholic Church and now resides in a dark corner of the Vatican's private archives.
Right next to the naughty picture books.
Over the centuries, copies or released transcriptions of the book's 4 chapters have leaked out and found their way onto the market.
Okay.
While the copies currently available on Amazon are said to be counterfeit editions of the Grand Grimoire, many believe that they still hold enough source material
to fucking annihilate the space-time continuum.
To make them dangerous.
I mean, that's what I just said, no?
How dangerous?
Fucking up the equilibrium of the space-time continuum dangerous?
Well, let's put it this way. Occult experts believe that the Grand Grimoire is an instruction manual on how to summon Lucifer himself.
Isn't that the guy that taught us fire and science? That's fine.
I'm kidding.
In addition to his lower subordinates, like the demon Lucifuge Refocal.
Hibbity-jibbity Mickey Mouse?
The grimoire reveals... Lucifuge Refocal.
All right, then.
Hey, Satan.
Now, hold on, Azazel. I'm pissing fire on a bunch of corrupt Baptists. You guys spent a lot of time talking shit. Now, back in the pit.
My lord, I brought you Lucifuge Mickey Mouse.
Mickey Mouse?
I don't know. It's Lucifuge Refocal.
Now, that's way tougher sounding.
I was going to send him to Earth to fuck shit up. What do you think?
I'm down with that if you are Lucifuge Refocal.
Yes, my lord.
Now, why don't you try Hollywood? They're always trying to get me to show up there.
Yes, my lord.
And Azazel.
Yes, my lord Satan.
Isn't it about time for Stalin's fire ant bath?
Yes, my lord.
Nice.
The grimoire reveals the Prime Minister of Hell's treasury,
who is currently way into Bitcoin,
and promises infinite riches to anyone brave enough to summon him.
But
the problem, however,
the demon stuff,
is that while the book is said to contain spells and invocations that would bring these demons into our world,
like how a cookbook brings cookies into the world. Am I helping? No.
It contains no instructions on how to craft the spells to build the weapons that would control them and make them yield to the invokers every command. So basically, there is no failsafe in the book.
Fucking demons.
Once you summon, you're on your own. In one chapter, there are even instructions on how to make a pact with the devil.
I feel like those are all used up now.
Where he would be able to take over the invoker's body and do his work in human form. However, the chapter also contains instructions on how to make a pact unfair to the devil, giving the invoker not only total control of his bodily possession, but also the ability to cast the demon back into hell at any moment.
Written by Joss Whedon.
Of course.
Well, you want to do that one over the other one, I would think.
With great power comes great responsibility.
Wait, how'd Spider-Man get involved in this?
It's thought that religious leaders feared anyone who used the book would bring demons into our realm, and that they might forget the part where you need weapons and spells to control them.
We have Sam and Dean Winchester, thank you.
Thereby unwittingly setting the devil loose on an unsuspecting populace.
Well, that's what's obviously happened recently.
So, in a way, perhaps the Vatican hiding the Grand Grimoire is in everyone's best interest, and it might be hard to blame them. So, here is a story that, it's kind of interesting. On June 6, 2020, 2 sisters, Ava and Nicole, were enjoying a warm spring night in a country park outside of London.
Not the Texas London.
They were playing with glow sticks, watching the colors blur against the darkness, when 19-year-old Danielle Hussein crept up on them with a kitchen knife. He stabbed the sisters 24 times, and then he fled into the night.
Come on.
When the police eventually arrested Hussein for these brutal murders, they found a document he had written, a contract with Lucifuge Refocale, in which his deal was to sacrifice 2 women in return for hell's untold riches.
Friendly friends are friendly friends.
Before his crimes, Hussein even signed his contract in blood.
Like a cunt?
And was said to have been waiting for the demon to close the deal, as it were.
Where the hell's Lucifuge Mickey Mouse?
Was this tragic crime the result of a mentally ill young man?
Yep.
Or was there something more sinister at work?
Probably no.
Today, the publicly available version of the Grand Grimoire is used in Haitian voodoo rituals and in high magic rituals, so it may be possible that out there somewhere a demon is in our midst.
Probably. That makes me think of the Ninth Gate movie a lot when I think of that one.
Yeah.
And I love that movie. I think that movie is fantastic.
Yeah.
If you guys haven't seen it, Johnny Depp.
It's very good.
Is it a Roman Polanski movie? I can't remember.
It is.
Is it? Okay.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I mean, it's a crazy guy that made it, but it's fucking really well done. And it's all about a book that is, written by Satan himself. And
yes.
They go and they try and do the ritual, and it's all crazy and weird. But that's kind of what this reminds me of. And I don't know. I mean, I just can't wrap my mind around that kind of shit.
I know you can't.
Because it's like, well, if people could cast all these spells all the time, I mean, is that what's going on all the time? Just all these spells in the air? And Asmodeus and Centrifuge Mickey Mouse are running around killing folk, and people are fucked because of that? I don't know.
I have my own opinion about these things. I think you can read a book from cover to cover and get nothing from it.
Yes.
I think you can read a book from cover to cover and try really hard to act out what's in the book, especially these dark magic or even non-dark magic books, and get nothing from it.
Yeah, but the thing you would get from it is Luce Perina Doggy Spooge, and that's not good. Is that his name? Luce Perina?
I think also there is a way to get something from it.
Yeah.
But it takes...
You can learn stuff from everything.
Well, it takes, I don't know, even when you do research into Kabbalistic stuff in Kabbalah, you look into any of the high magic texts, there's a lot of time and energy and discipline that goes into doing any of these things. And I don't...
Aleister Crowley, if you guys Time Suck fans, if you guys listen to the Aleister Crowley, I haven't listened to it, but I know Dan went into it a lot. Aleister Crowley was super into the long ritual.
Yeah.
Whether, it doesn't matter what we believe, it matters what he believed. And what he believed was he was summoning not the devil, but he was summoning a pretty powerful entity, and he took months to do a ritual. And I mean,
Lucifuge Refocale is who he was going for.
Yeah.
If I'm not mistaken. I might be, but I don't think... I think that's who he was going for.
Which is just a weak little nothing or something, I guess.
No.
But, I mean, when you think about it, like what we do today, I mean, basically, we'll train for the Olympics, or we'll train for something important in our lives, some athletic event or some, thing that we're going to do. The guy spent that kind of time on esoteric things and occult things.
It's very, very difficult today, and with today's technology, with today's human, to be mentally and emotionally disciplined enough to follow these practices.
These weirdos too.
Yeah.
I mean, and like Aleister Crowley again, he did hallucinogenic drugs while he was doing it on purpose to do these things and all that stuff. So I mean, we don't have the wherewithal or the legality. I mean, it's very difficult to follow in these guys' footsteps. But there are people out there doing it. So somebody's probably got a demon running around right now.
They claim to be doing it for sure.
All right, so let's talk about it, all this stuff, in our conclusion.
There's a lot of different dipshits this week. But what do our dipshits think about all the dipshittery, eh?
So, lots of crazy stuff. Out-of-place artifacts.
Yeah.
That always makes me happy. There's fun things about that. I do love the ancient astronaut ideas, and I love when they're like, well, what's this thing? And you're like, well, probably not aliens, but it's fucking cool. I mean, the Antikythera mechanism is fucking cool.
Yeah.
I mean, just the idea, I love the idea of, say, before time. We look at Samaria as the first civilization, and it is on record and whatnot. But what if there was something before that that's just lost to time?
Right.
And what if they had mechanisms of some kind, or electricity or some shit?
Right.
That fascinates me. I love that.
Well, there's that, what they call the Baghdad battery, too.
Right.
I thought about covering that in here, but I think it's been overcovered.
It's been way overcovered. And I don't think it's... it is interesting.
It does generate electricity, but it's more for electroplating.
Yeah, exactly.
Right.
Which still is fucking neat. That was human beings. I mean, that was the cutting edge technology at the time.
Yeah.
So, which is fantastic and interesting. But then when it comes to these cursed books, I mean, I get it. Superstition's super powerful in people. And like you said, if you believe you're cursed, that's all that really matters to anybody, which is why we didn't say do the poem. It's because it's like, well, I'm pretty sure everybody here is listening to this fine, but our mind messes with us.
Right.
And so it's not worth it.
Right.
But at the same token, it's all hibbity-jibbity when it comes to, in my view.
I know in your view.
When it comes to cursed books, when it comes to, it just seems like stuff that goes along with a lot of the ancient religions where they're like, well, if you do this, somebody's going to see you and they're going to punish you magically. It's like, well, I don't know about magical punishment. But.
Well, and I have my own set of beliefs when it comes to energy and the way...
I don't reflect them in what I just said, that's for sure.
Not always. I mean, you don't always reflect them. And in the statement that you just make does not reflect my belief system.
Right.
I do believe there's power in words. And I do believe there's power in the delivery of the words. And
if you say the right shit, Lucifina Centrifuge can come to your party. I'm kidding. So fucking A, maybe these books are cursed. So do not look up these books.
I would not say that the books are cursed. That's just it. But I do think there's power in these books. I do.
I'm sure. They're all very interesting. They all sound worth reading. The orphan story, in particular, sounds like it was Tamino's Hell.
Yeah.
Was the book? No, that was a poem, right?
The Tamino's Hell is a poem. The orphan story is 350 pages.
Like a movie. Yeah, the orphan story sounds interesting to read, or it sounds like a fun thing. So who knows?
Well, it has since, if I'm not mistaken, it has since been published. Yeah.
Okay. Well, if you guys find it and you read it, let us know if you like it.
Yeah.
And if you have a curse put on you, try not to tell us about it too much and put the curse on us. Keep it to yourself if you got cursed.
We don't know. It's been so recently published that if it has been published, it may not even been published yet. There's no cursed stuff going on yet.
Well, you can be the guinea pig. If it's coming out next month, you get it.
The writers were the ones that were cursed.
Right. Well, that is our show for this week. Thank you for all that. That's fun information to learn.
Yeah, it was fun to research.
Yeah. And I don't know. The Antikythera mechanism, amazing. Blows my mind. Lennon Hammer, not so much.
Right.
It's interesting, though. But it's interesting to see what people did.
Yeah.
Like, it's a fucking magic hammer from 500,000 years ago. And the Koso artifact, also interesting in that same kind of light. The cursed books, they were all fucking interesting.
Yeah.
And I would definitely check out The Ninth Gate.
Yeah, that movie is just, it really is wonderful. And it does reflect similarities with the Grand Grimoire. Not a lot, but there are some similarities in the storyline anyways.
Yeah, and the way it's treated is certainly that. So... But thank you guys for listening. We appreciate you. We do have a little announcement that we want to make. It's actually a big announcement to us.
Yes.
We've added a new person to the staff, but why don't you tell them?
Yeah. Well, we would like to welcome Quartermaster aboard, our very own Bodhi.
Yes.
He's our research assistant on certain aspects of Dipshit Files. He's going to be taking care of a lot of the scientific stuff.
Yay.
And he's already chosen his first topic. So I'm very, very excited to welcome Bodhi aboard.
Yes. And again, if you guys don't know, we've talked about this already a couple times this week. We talked about it on the SKATCAST and on the Inside Scooper, but he was I would say the grand champion of the Time Suck trivia.
Yes.
Very smart guy, very diligent and scrupulous guy. He brings a lot of cool skepticism, but also a very open mind, and he loves to wackadoodles.
Yeah,
so he's
going to be a really fun addition to this show.
Yes, we're always excited for that kind of thing. So yay! I mean, feels
welcome
like
aboard.
The team has grown, and I love it. And speaking of the team, thank you to Dawn, our shitbox wizard, who's always doing cool shit in the Facebook world and elsewhere. And also to Chris, our Discord Dookie Slayer, who's doing the same fun things. He's keeping the Discord.
Discord is just popping.
Yeah, always a fun place. And social media sucks, but not ours.
They make it better.
Ours is pretty good.
Yeah.
And so it's a nice little group of people that are very nice. So if you'd like to join it, we encourage that. If you're a cunt, please don't. Just stay home.
Well, you can find our social media on Facebook is the shit box.
Yes.
But if you type in the shit box, you're not going to get there. You have to replace the I in shit with a kitty butthole.
God. What have we done?
I know.
That's an asterisk for those of you not following along on every episode.
So it's SH
kitty butthole
asterisk T box.
Yeah. And you'll find all SKATCAST related stuff, lots of fun memes, lots of cool stuff that Dawn does, and lots of people in there interacting, just making everybody laugh. And keeping the world that is stupid outside of the world that is the shitbox.
Absolutely.
And I would say the same. I mean, obviously, Discord is a different kind of social media.
Been so much fun.
But if you have ideas for the show, it's a great place for that. If you have some comments that you'd like us to read or that you would like, to make about what we're doing, some corrections, you can do all that there. We can also get all that stuff at info@skatcast.com.
Yep.
That's the fastest way to tell us that you don't like what we're doing or you do. The best way to support us. Best way to support us is patreon.com/SKATCAST. We've got 5 tiers of fun where you can become part of our litter box, and we have lots of content there and lots more coming. So we love our bosses. There's over 150 of you as the recording of this goes, and that's huge to us. It allows us to keep on trucking. So yeah, we'll see you guys next week. I'm not sure what the topic's going to be just yet.
It's going to be a surprise.
It's going to be a surprise, but we'll talk at you in the future,
and it'll seem like a present.
Bye.
Bye.
Dipshit Files.
Bing bong.